Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here. Let's chat. Let's chat about four things today. One is, why is Lori upset at me? Two would be, what am I willing to die for? What are you willing to die for? Three would be, let's talk a little bit about the Warren Buffett, Bill Gates giving pledge that started in 2010. And then four, I'd like to share with you a quote that is highly inspirational to me and continues to inspire me, and I'm sure will inspire me going forward. So number one, Lori is jumping in full bore on this Wacky Warriors Rim to Rim charitable hike in the middle of June. And this is it's a 21-mile hike, 7 miles down, 7 miles across, and 7 miles up. This is a big deal for her because this is not her cup of tea. But nonetheless, she has made a commitment to it, as have so many people in wacky events in the past and in this. We have 30 people that are joining us on this particular venture. We're so excited about it and what it can do in terms of raising funds and awareness for young adults living with cancer. And if you would like to become a wacky warrior, then come in and support us on this or on the golf tournament, by the way, which will be on June 1st. In Orlando. So we've got two wacky events happening in June, and you can become a wacky warrior by supporting either one of them. So go to wackywarriors.org, and you can see there where to click on either of those events or check them both out and become a sponsor or a participant. There's no more room on the Rim to Rim. We'd love you to participate in the wackiest day of golf in Orlando. So either way, become a sponsor and get your wacky warrior pin. Now, Lori is committed to this, and for her, that's a big step. She really hasn't had this kind of, not too many people have had the kind of training that you need to do this in 105-degree temperature, hiking in the Grand Canyon. And she is taking it seriously. However, where I'm not good at measuring time nor distance. And she's allowed me on our Saturday hikes, which is supposed to be the long one, to do the time and distance for those hikes. Well, again, I blew it this weekend. It was much harder than it should have been, much longer than it should have been, and she's taken that responsibility away from me, and she's been a little bit miffed about doing it. I'm grateful that we had our Easter in between because her dinner was phenomenal. And I told her, I said, with all your great qualities, if they all went away, and this one quality was left that you were such a great cook, I would have married you anyway. So I hope that got me some ground. Now, as we think about this time of year, let's talk about the second thing for just a second. I've been thinking about, what am I willing to die for? What are you willing to die for? Would you die for your beliefs? Would you die for your family, your spouse, your children? Yes. Yes, I would. And I think you would answer, yes, you would as well. Well, let me rephrase that a little bit differently. What are you willing to live for? Are you living for your cause, for your children, for your family, for your wife or husband? Are you? So really, you think about it in terms from a scarcity standpoint, what are you willing to die for? But from an abundance standpoint, what are you willing to live for? Now let's take a look at the Warren Buffett, Bill Gates approach that they took in June of 2010, which now has over 130 billionaires that have signed the pledge, individuals and families that have signed the pledge of turning over their wealth during their lifetime and after death of everything that is not enough, their excess, if you will, basically the majority of their wealth, to charitable causes. They're not campaigning for a particular cause. They're just saying, let's give it back. So many of them, we hear them say, well, okay, I'm going to save some for education. You hear them say, well, this is a better alternative for me because I don't want to ruin my children. I don't want this money to ruin my children. And how often I've heard that in our business. I don't want my money to ruin my children. Well, let's take a different approach to it. So what you're saying is that the reason that you think it's going to be bad for your children is because they didn't earn it. They probably won't value it then. They don't know how to manage it. And so they take it for granted, and ultimately then it's going to ruin them. So rather than do that, let's give it to a charity. And charities have a long time history of they didn't earn it. Do they value it? Do they have the skills and willingness to be able to maintain it and keep it going? Have they proven that in the past, and do you think they'll prove it in the future? And what are the indicators that 40, 50, 60 years from now they'll still have the same causes, or that they won't have morphed or changed? Now, there's impacts on both of that, so that's a concern. I love and I congratulate these billionaire families that have made this commitment, but I hope that they expand their horizon. I hope they didn't do it because they weren't willing or didn't know how to spend the time and investment in their family, to live for their family, so that they could prepare them to be a participants in this going forward. And part of that comes into system and structure, and I'd like to talk to you about that in the future. But in any event, you think about legacy. Legacy, the traditional thinking around legacy is almost a scarcity approach. How much will I leave? An abundant approach is, how can I live today? Make your legacy not about something that you leave. Make your legacy about something that you live. Living a legacy versus leaving a legacy. And so in that context of really thinking about it and where we're going and what we're doing and how they're set up, wouldn't it be wonderful if they could create something, then do both, where they could empower their family and have a system in place to empower their family to make a difference, and at the same time in a way that benefits this world going forward? There's so much more to this. But I'm brought back then to the fourth thing that I want to talk about or chat with you, and that's Mother Teresa and a quote when she was asked about world peace. And she says, you want world peace? You want world peace? Then go home and spend time with your family. Go home and strengthen your family. So, what do you want to live for? What do you want to live for? There's so much that we can do about this. So much that we can do about this. Thank you for being with me today. We're going to get deeper into this in the future. I hope that you enjoy this. Please share this with your friends if this aligns with the way that you think. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.